Let's start by essentially telling me about the Cambridge site. I mean, I think we all know who Sartorius Steadin Biotech is, but the Cambridge site itself, what do you do?
So a couple of years ago, Sartorius acquired in quick succession two companies. The first one was a cell line development company from Laupheim in Germany named Celka. And in parallel with that, they also bought a very nice product characterization and analytical business, originally headquartered in Glasgow in Scotland. And that was called BioOutsource. So as part of the integration of those businesses into the company, there's really a services division has been put together, which we call CTS, Cell Line Development and Testing Solutions. And then the obvious choice for us was to come and put ourselves in the middle of what's now the largest biotech hub in the world.
I was actually going to ask, a Glaswegian company, a German company, and then you
then an Irish guy shows up.
Irishman comes up and goes to Boston.
That's right.
Or Cambridge, rather. Are the company still operating from Scotland and Germany, or have you brought everything together under the Cambridge umbrella?
No, in fact, the original idea was for us to have a satellite initial footprint in Cambridge, and then that would start a presence in the hub, but also, feed, have a customer-facing site in Cambridge, but feeding the rest of the businesses. What we're finding is very quickly that the work that we're doing for these emerging companies in Cambridge has become so popular, and we've gotten so busy that we're now in our second stage of expansion. And we're just realizing that it is critically important to be there for those customers for a lot of the reasons that actually Katerina talked about. Vein-to-vein products are extremely demanding in terms of turnaround time. So speed is of the essence. Critical quality attributes of those products and the quality stuff is important to get to them quickly. So we need to be there.
Was this Sartorius's first venture into the sort of analytics, QC, and characterization space? That double acquisition a couple of years back.
Yes, I mean traditionally Sartorius is a supplier of BioProcess technologies, purification technologies, single-use systems. So we did. I'm quite new, so sometimes I say they, but we did a lot of work on the support services for regulatory filings, product characterization, traditional things like virus clearance, microbial validation, things like filter extractables and leachables, and product contact surfaces. So this was kind of the first step into early stage development, characterization of processes, and looking at critical quality attributes of next generation biological products.
Traditionally, are these services that a large biopharma would have done in-house?
The very large ones, yes. And traditionally, then it was done by some large, what were referred to at one time as testing houses. And these were mostly very large QC labs that focused on QC release for firstly traditional pharma products and then migrated to the biologics. Now it's becoming so specialized. For example, target binding. We do very basic screening for target binding in our Cambridge facility. And as a result of doing that, we do additionally a lot of work around product characterization. Then we look at the target binding, and then we wrap it all up in a data analytics platform, which will give us insights on the overall performance of the product, because it's not just about one thing.
I guess how critical are these services to the development of a biological product?
So it's almost as critical to know what doesn't work as what works really well. And so most people now will be screening multiple clones, and then understanding not just how, for example, a clone binds to a target, but what the binding profile of that clone was, and how that clone can actually be propagated if you choose it. And so all of the process data that goes on in the R&D lab, when it's loaded into binding profiling of those clones, gives huge insight into which one to move forward with. So we're enabling these clients to actually make educated choices based on data.
So it's kind of critical, and also getting it right can save millions, if not more, in development costs.
Oh yeah, for sure. So picking the right candidate. It sounds obvious, but picking the right candidate to move forward with can be a make or break decision. And there is no shortage of data. The shortcoming is taking all of this data and extracting insights from 12, 13 different data sets of different kinds, and what it all means together. And sometimes you actually don't pick the clone that grows best or the clone that binds better. You pick the right binding characteristics with the right growth profile with robust cell culture process.
In a world where the news focus, from my point of view, is always on what you'd call the sexier fermentation stages or downstream, or the actual the large pieces of equipment itself, the analytics QC area often gets overlooked. As far as the market dynamics goes, where does Sartorius, through its acquisitions and I guess its organic growth since those acquisitions, where does it sit?
So I think if you've seen any of our investor presentations, we clearly are very focused on, we've got huge growth expectations, and we've been very public about that, going to double in size by 2025. So we will be, looking at businesses that are going to enable our entree into larger emerging therapy classes. I think we're very, very focused on marrying data analytics platforms, which we own today, into the bioprocessing arena, the purification arena, next generation purification platforms, and of course single use.
Are there any technologies or specific areas of this space that you feel Sartorius is missing or might be looking to add in the future?
So if you look at a single-use process template, the obvious one for Sartorius is the kind of chromatography franchise, and so we will be, and we've been quite public about looking deep into that area. But I think also optimization for upstream processing, and we have a tremendous upstream process development platform called Amber, taking our cell lines with the Amber platform, with our data analytics power, and putting that all together is a big focus for us as well.
So I guess that's more in the sort of general, the full biomanufacturing end-to-end solutions. But within the sort of analytics QC space, is there any piece of equipment or any technology that you feel like you're missing out on, or industry may be missing out on?
So I think the big gap is when we move to these vein-to-vein therapies. Traditionally, products are released in using traditional, for example, release testing for sterility. So the industry needs to bring regulators along around rapid product release technologies, and the balance between certain amounts of certainty on traditional testing and the enablement that we get from rapid release testing, like qPCR, digital PCR type of tests.
And do you feel regulators aren't are either not fully behind rapid release testing or are just a bit oblivious to it at the moment?
No, I think they're quite expert in it actually in terms of the technology and the science. It's just that there's so little real data with patients out there that it's a leap, and anything that's new is always uncomfortable, and so we have to get them there together, because this all won't work without robust rapid release platforms.
So really, that's the next stage of advancing these molecules.
Yes, and to be honest with you, I mean, there are some novel applications that we do in Cambridge, but the big thing about our Cambridge operation is actually the fact that we're there, and that some of our customers that are working on candidates can literally walk across Kendall Square and deliver us samples. So that just gives you an idea of how important speed is to them, and it becomes increasingly important as you get closer to clinic to be able to rapidly characterize how well you've done manufacturing your product.
Boston obviously is the hub for biodevelopment,
yes.
But it's still a global industry. Are there any plans for Sartorius to expand into other geographies, whether it's at the west coast of the US, whether it's here in Philadelphia, or to actually to other territories themselves?
Yes, I mean, if you were to again just go back to, for example, our investor presentations, which is all public discussion, we are fully committed to our China strategy, because it's just going to be critical to the next steps of growth, and yeah, we're looking at where else we need to do this, because if you move out of Cambridge, to your point, you lose that advantage. So where do you need to be, and what format does that need to be in order to actually deliver in the next hub to the next set of innovators?
So it really justifies the high rents there.
Oh yeah, yes, for sure.
Well, Maurice, I'd like to thank you so much for speaking to me this morning.
Thanks, Dan.
And I look forward to continuing to read and write about the future developments in Sartorius and the bioanalytical space.
Cheers, thanks very much.
Thanks.